Overlord's main protagonist, Ainz is a villain. Now, I know that won't be a surprise to many of you light novel readers, but apparently anime only seem to have just caught on to this fact in the recent episodes of Season 3, specifically Episode 8 regarding the workers. And now, many anime onlys are saying things like how this is a drastic change in tone and how this is out of character. All of these things on various comment sections on YouTube and media. And this video is a response to that, in which I'm going to present the fact that Ainz has always been this way, almost since the very beginning. So, I'll start by talking about Ainz's actions in chronological order the arcs take place. So let's get started. I'd like to begin with the Dark Warriors arc, and I'll primarily be focusing on the conversation between Ainz and Clementine before their inevitable fight, in which Clementine provokes Ainz, bragging about the group she killed, knowing that Ainz spent a lot of time with them, even mentioning what one of the victim's final words were before torturing her and killing her, which is pretty sadistic and cruel. But pay attention to what Ainz says in response, in which, quote, "There is no need to apologize. Depending on the situation, I would have done something similar, so reproaching you would be hypocritical for me. However, those people were tools to raise my fame. For interrupting my plans, your very existence is offensive." End quote. Wow. Now keep in mind that this group that was brutally murdered aren't bad people, as far as we know anyway. They weren't criminals or rapists or anything like that. They were just your average Joes trying to sustain a living in this world. And Ainz literally just stated he would have done the exact same thing. It was for the benefit of his goals. Which, at this point in the story, for Ainz at least, is to become famous adventurers so they can earn more money, fame, and influence and learn more about the world. Now, having goals like that aren't bad per se, but to be willing to murder innocent people like the ones Clementine killed for yourself in your group, which we know to be Nazarick, is pretty evil. In fact, Ainz really isn't that much better than Clementine. The only difference between the two is that Ainz isn't sadistic and doesn't kill at random. But so what? He still has no problem killing innocent people if it benefits his group. So that's just one example of Ainz's villainy that was shown early on in the anime, well before Season 3, Episode 8. Now, let's move on to the next arc, the Lizard Man arc, in which Ainz goes to war with the demi-humans known as Lizard Man. Keep in mind that these individuals were in no way a threat to Ainz, nor did they initiate the fight either. Ainz did. The result being the loss of numerous lives, with not all being revived. Again, pretty evil. Now, I know that some people are going to say it wasn't Ainz's idea, in which I say again, so what? Ainz approved of the plan, and it's been proven time and time again that the denizens of Nazarick treat Ainz's word as gospel and follow it as an absolute. So, if he was against it, no one would say anything, and since Ainz didn't say anything, it makes him just as guilty. All of this unnecessary bloodshed just for an experiment for Ainz to see if his subordinates can be willing to think and adapt on his own. That's right, countless innocent people were sacrificed just for an experiment that would only benefit Ainz. Not only that, but Ainz originally had zero intentions of reviving certain individuals of the Lizardman. only changing his mind due to the suggestion of his subordinates. So yeah, pretty evil. I've also heard people say that the lizardmen are better off now that Ainz is ruling them, and I gotta say that's dead wrong. The only reason the lizardmen are following Ainz is because of fear, point blank period. Unfortunately, the two examples I have to prove that fact, the anime hasn't covered yet at the time of this recording, which is volume 11 of the light novels. So you're going to have to do your own research on that. Just know that these are some of the most intense moments in the series. But yeah, approving an attack on innocent civilians, pretty evil. Now, moving on to the Men in the Kingdom arc, in which Demurge attacks the kingdom. Part of the reason why he does this is to raise Ainz' famous Mamon once he gets him to retreat from the kingdom. And at one point, when Ainz conversates with Demurge on the status of the humans he has captured, Ainz says simply to kill them, but mercifully. Again, innocent people, so even if those people are killed without suffering, it's still evil. And that's not even counting the countless soldiers killed during the invasion during that arc. Again, all done partially to increase Ainz' fame as Mamon. It's also worth noting that in this arc, Ainz says if he had to choose between the lives of men, women, and children or Nazarick, he would pick Nazarick without hesitation, meaning that no matter what horrible things the Dynasty of Nazarick does, Ainz will not hold them accountable for their actions. So, for example, it's been confirmed in the light novels that Demurge takes innocent women and crossbreeds them with various demi-humans by forcing them to have sex, which is basically rape. And this is all done as an experiment to see if humans can produce offspring with other races or species. And if Ainz found out about that, Ainz would not hold him accountable, because to him, the lives of the denizens of Nazarick have more value than anyone outside of it. Again, this is confirmed in the light novels. In the next arc, when Ainz talks to Lupus Regina about Nympharia after scolding her about failing to provide information since she considers all the villagers there to be nothing more than toys, Ainz says, quote, "He is important enough that I would have loved to imprison him in Nazarick and have him do research here. After all, knowledge is power." End quote, in which Nabe says, "Why not do that?" Ainz responds, quote, "Earning his trust and earning his gratitude, chain him down will bring us greater gain over time than forcing the labor. The most important person in that village is Nympharia, and number 2 is Henri, as his love for her is the chain that keeps him down there. Last is his grandmother Lizzie. All the others are of no consequence. Do what you must to protect those 3 at all costs." End quote. Think about that. Ainz was planning on taking an innocent man's freedom, but only changed his mind when he thought he could get a better result out of him. Which, once again, thinking about his own goals and personal desires over others. Then in that same arc, we see him send an attack on an innocent village, all to test the mental capabilities of his subordinates in terms of following orders. What's particularly frightening to me about that is that he only ordered the protection of those 3 individuals. And since we know the personality of Lupu Regina, in that she cares little regards for human lives, she was only going to do the bare minimum and protect those 3. Notice the entire time that attack happened, she didn't step in until the very end when she felt like Nympharia's life was in danger. And she was there. She can hide her presence so no one knew she was present, and she didn't step in until she realized that the person that she was ordered to protect was about to die. So, when you look at all of these examples of Ainz' villainy, then look at episode 8 of season 3, it really isn't that big of a surprise what Ainz did, like at all. And since we're on the subject, let's talk about the Invaders of the Lost Tomb arc. Now, one of the first things I've heard people say trying to defend Ainz' actions is that the workers had a choice and that they didn't have to steal what was there. In which I say that there is a word to combat that argument, and that word is entrapment. Entrapment, which by definition is the action of tricking someone into committing a crime to secure their prosecution, which is a crime. It doesn't matter that they were here to steal from Ainz. Ainz and crew specifically set up these individuals so they could be sacrificed, all for testing the defenses of Nazareth. Again, doesn't matter that Ainz tested or asked for their motives to see what they were. It's still wrong. And if you don't think so, I dare someone to attempt to do what Ainz did and see how that holds up in court. Now, I'm actually going to switch gears and talk about those who defend Ainz' actions. One thing I usually hear people say is that since Ainz is an undead, his emotions are suppressed, so he feels nothing for humans. In which I say that that is simply untrue. We've seen multiple times when Ainz has shown compassion to humans, like when he sends his forces out to rescue Sulare back during the demon invasion in the Men in the Kingdom arc, or back when he helped the village Henri resides in back in season 1 when they were under attack. Granted, his reasons weren't particularly noble for doing so, but Ainz wasn't obligated to help them. I also forgot to mention that Ainz decided to save or issue an order to Lupu Regina to protect Henri's sister when he originally had zero intention of doing so, only changing his mind when she praised Nazareth. So no, I don't buy that argument. Another argument I hear is that there have been people who have done way more bad things than Ainz, so we shouldn't be criticizing Ainz' actions on the things he's done. First of all, just because someone does something horrible, it does not give you the right to do something just as bad, even if what they've done is just as horrible. That's like me saying that I murdered someone for my own benefit, but someone else murdered someone and raped them before murdering them for their own benefit, but I'm okay because he did something just as horrible. No, two wrongs don't make a right. Second of all, no one in the New World has come close to doing the amount of horrible things Ainz has done, one of which includes genocide. And I've read all of the volumes of the light novel, and Ainz' death count alone, not counting any of the other members of Nazareth, Ainz alone are literally in the tens of thousands, if not more. Most of which were people Ainz had no business fighting in the first place. And I'm not going to list what those actions are, since a lot of it is light novel material and the anime hasn't covered all that yet. And I don't want to spoil anime onlys of the future events. Man, it's like because they find so many likable and relatable things on Ainz' character, they feel like they need to defend the horrendous things he's done. And I'm here to tell you it's okay. It's okay to like a character who doesn't always do the right thing. I like him. You see me using him as my avatar on YouTube. Why? because I think that's good character writing. That Ainz isn't some mustache twirling villain whose only thought is to do the worst things imaginable to others that you would see on a Saturday morning cartoon. That he has relatable sides with likes and dislikes, similar to our own. Not a one-dimensional villain. Good writing. A lot of people think that villains are people you're supposed to hate, and I strongly disagree. I think that's lazy writing, because most people in today's society don't do bad things for the sake of doing bad things. There's usually a motive involved, whether it's to steal money to get out of debt or pay bills, or even murder due to jealousy or loss of a loved one, which is basically revenge. Most people typically have a motive for doing what they do. That's why Tagoro from Yu Yu Hakusho, Griffith from Berserk are among my favorite villains, and Ainz is up there with them. In fact, he's probably my favorite villain due to all the relatable sides he has. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say. So if you see any more comments on videos saying either one, that Ainz being a villain was a random change in tone, or two, try to defend Ainz's evil action saying it was justified, just show them this video. I plan on doing another video of Overlord comparing the anime to the light novel, because the anime cuts a lot of content. I mean a lot. It's pretty laughable, actually, and it almost changes characterization of certain characters as well, which really bothers me. So I'll definitely be talking about that soon. So yeah, that's it. Thanks for listening.